Hey guys, what's up? So let us continue with our lesson on perspectives in human geography. And the topic for today is human approach or humanistic approach in geography. So this is presented by the Book Binger. So first of all, talking about the concept of humanism. So many of you might find this a bit philosophical. Actually, this topic is philosophical. So I have tried to explain it to you in a very concise and to the point manner. So even if you don't understand, just try and memorize. Okay. This topic is like that. It is a bit philosophical. Can't help it. So the philosophical philosophy of humanism gives central role to human agency, human awareness, and human creativity. According to it, humans are the central point of study in a discipline. They are willful agents with intelligence and consciousness who shape their own destiny. So you can see that it's talking that human beings themselves are the end point, are an end in themselves, and they they are superior beings and they have their own thought process. They are able to shape their own destiny and so on and so forth. So philosophy of humanism can said to be divided into the following types. So actually, no question will come on this philosophies. Fine, but definitely since humanistic approach and geography used two of these philosophies, so I'm just giving you a brief idea so that you may understand that okay, what we will be dealing with. And similarly, there won't be any direct question on this phenomenology or existentialism, but these ideas are very necessary to understand the concept of humanism. So this slide is mainly helping you to understand the concepts, and if you are not understanding, just memorize everything from the next slide. Fine. वैसे it's not that tough, so you will be able to understand. So the first philosophy, that is metaphysical humanism. It says that humans have higher mental capacity. They can think, explore, create, and have their own value system, which are a result of their life experiences. And Darwin criticized this viewpoint and said that Homo sapiens or humans are like any other species that have evolved as a result of evolution, and they don't have any higher mental capacity or are not any superior beings. So, another philosophy is of topical humanism. It says that we must examine the way different people see the same reality differently. So you remember Kant said that in reality is noumena and people see phenomena through the filter of their mind. So they see the same reality differently. So this is the we must examine that how they are able to see different people see the same reality differently. So this is the idea of topical humanism. Then methodological humanism asserts that scientific method based on cause effect relationship is only one method to gain knowledge, and we must use philosophical methods like literary criticism, heuristics, interviews, field surveys to better understand human phenomena. Should be a comma here. Fine. And philanthropic humanism says that the aim of all knowledge should be the benefit of humans. And of these four types of philosophies or sub branches of philosophies of humanism, humanistic approach in geography utilizes the philosophy of topical humanism and methodological humanism. Fine. So, other philosophies that are or concepts you can say that are used by humanistic geographers, they are phenomenology and existentialism. So Immanuel Kant said that humans don't see noumena but see phenomena through a filter of mind. According to the idea of phenomenology, we must focus on understanding phenomena rather than only establishing cause effect relationships. So this is phenomenology. Existentialism means that we must try to find the meaning of human existence or human life by studying the history of individuals. So humanistic geographers also used these ideas of phenomenology and existentialism, and apart from the philosophy of topical humanism and methodological humanism, and adopted existential phenomenology as the dominant methodology after quantitative revolution. So quantitative revolution used statistical methods and quantitative methods, and humanistic geographers use the concepts of phenomenology and existentialism to develop a methodology which they termed as existential phenomenology. So they did existential phenomenology to achieve their aims. So you can say that methodology of humanism is existential phenomenology, and the philosophy used is topical humanism and methodological humanism. Okay. Then in existential phenomenology, what is this methodology? One tries to become a part of the phenomena in order to understand it. So, for example, let Gandhiji shunned clothes after his arrival in India and adopted the lifestyle of a common man to understand their problems better. Also, another example can be Sherlock Holmes, who tries to get into the situation and then he tries to become a part of the crime scene and to understand that how the criminal must be thinking. So this is how in both the cases of Gandhiji and Sherlock Holmes, they are trying to become a part of the phenomena to understand it better. So they are doing existential phenomenology. So humanistic geographers also use the idea of idealism and said that one must focus on the study of culture, religion, and language to better understand the human phenomena. So these were several. They developed several themes related to culture, religion, and language, and I will just be explaining them to you. So, regarding the development of humanistic approach in geography, it can be divided into three phases, that is before QR, during QR, and post QR. So, before QR, humanism was present in the form of topical humanism. And example, for example, that during the ancient and medieval period, Strabo, Herodotus, El-Biruni explored cultural geography. So, this is like based on the philosophy of topical humanism, one can say. So, it is not that humanistic approach was only present after the quantitative revolution. Okay, in a narrow sense, we can say that what humanism we know, humanistic approach we know in geography, it was present in as a dominant approach in geography after QR. But the idea, I repeat, the idea of humanism, that is the human being as a central agency, what I told you about in the first slide, and giving importance to human consciousness and human activity, human phenomena. So, giving importance to all this was prevalent in geography even before QR. So, even Kant spoke of the concept of idealism, which has inherent the concept in which the concept of humanism is inherent in the classical period. Later, Vidal de la Blas, Otto Schluter, Carl Sawyer wrote about the role of human endeavor in shaping a cultural landscape. Fine. So, during QR, human geography was said to be dehumanized. So, just try to understand it. Although it is human geography is a subject, and I am saying it is dehumanized means that the study of human phenomena, human consciousness, human agency declined during QR. Since QR was based upon the ideas of positivism and economic rational human being, and the normative aspects of humans were neglected, like the feelings of humans were neglected to develop models and theories which were generalized and applicable everywhere. But in this phase too, a silent undercurrent of topical humanism remained the works of David Lowenthal and J.K. Wright. So, David Lowenthal inquired into the ways different people see the world and how they see it differently. And J.K. Wright gave the concept of geosophy, that is, Earth is what is thought by the people living on it. So, they are giving importance to the human phenomena, human agency, and human consciousness. Post QR, the contemporary approach of quantitative revolution was criticized by humanistic geographers, and they used the philosophy of topical and methodological humanism to study human phenomena. And as I said, topical and methodological humanism was the philosophy used by humanistic approach after QR, and the methodology of existential phenomenology was used along with methods like literary criticism, heuristics, interviews, field surveys, and these were used to develop the concept of place and study crowding, privacy, language, religion, and livelihood, etc. So all these are the all these are the themes that are developed by humanistic geographers. So, humanistic approach in geography is said to provide a scathing criticism in geography. So, this can be even a question like humanistic approach provides a scathing criticism in geography. So, let us try to answer this question. So, first, you should understand that humanism was a challenging approach between 1950s and 70s when QR was the main paradigm, and it was along with humanism, behavioralism, and environmentalism, welfare approach, and radicalism were the challenging approaches. And these environmentalism, welfare approach, radicalism were a part of the social relevance movement. So, thus, humanism during this time, since it is the challenging approach, it will criticize the main approach. So, it criticized the dominant approach of QR. Fine. And you should understand that during this period of time, it will not criticize behavioralism, environmentalism, welfare approach because these are not the dominant approaches. They have the same level as that of humanism. And quantitative revolution is at a higher level. So a smaller person always tries to criticize a bigger person. Fine. So smaller countries like you can say Pakistan criticize India. So they will not criticize Iran, Iraq because they are just small. They will not criticize Nepal and Bhutan. Fine, they will criticize India. So the same way, humanism criticized quantitative revolution between 1950s and 1970s. And you can say that after 1970s, humanism became one of the dominant approach, and it was the multi-paradigmatic phase in geography. And along with behavioralism and radicalism, humanism was the dominant approach, and welfare geography and environmentalism were the main challenging approaches. So now humanism is dominant. So humanism, you should understand that humanism will not criticize the approaches which are smaller than it in stature. So it will not criticize welfare geography and environmentalism. So India doesn't keep on criticizing Pakistan or uh, pay much attention to Pakistan because it's a failed state, it's a failed economy. We don't need to bother much about it. And similarly, but we need to compete with those who have an equal stature with us. Fine. For example, the G8 economies, we talk about them. So similarly, humanism criticized in this phase behavioralism and radicalism, which were also dominant approaches during the multi-paradigmatic phase. So what all criticism human was provided by the humanistic approach, now you can very easily even write and very logical it will seem. So they criticized positivistic objectives of making universal models and theories using quantitative methods and statistical analysis. They criticized the idea of economic rational human to the neglect of normative aspects like feelings and prejudices, which is leading to oversimplification of phenomena. So this criticism they did in between 1950s to 1970s. Then from 1970s to 1980s, they criticized structuralism or they criticize structuralism by saying that the concept forces humans to be subordinated to the underlying structures where human beings are masters of their own destiny, whereas human beings are masters of their own destiny. And behavioralists were criticized as being neo-positivists since they were also trying to make models and theories, and human beings were given a secondary role in the theories developed by them. And they criticized radicalism and said that it has led to politicization of human geography, and human geography should remain neutral. Like any discipline should not be become political. So this structuralism, you must be thinking what it is. It was a parent approach, you can say, of radicalism, and I will deal about this separately in the topic on radicalism. So let us first quickly go through the contribution of geographers in the development of humanism. So these are the four geographers. You can remember their names and their work, and it will be very useful to write an answer on the question of humanistic approach. So Edward Ralph in his book Place and Placelessness, he used the idea of existential phenomenology to give the concept of authentic and inauthentic sense of place. Authentic sense of place occurs in a traditional society, according to him, where people have cultural attachment to a place and belong to it without having to reflect on it. And in a modern society, increased mobility has led to distortion of such a sense of place and has led to placelessness, which Rels describes as an inauthentic sense of place. So, long story short, and in simple language, for example, if you are staying in a village, you develop a particular habit of seeing things in a particular way. For example, you know that there will be a biogas plant at a particular region. There will be a small pond. There is a lake. There are some cattle who have their specific areas for grazing. There are farms, and you feel attached to those places because you have been staying there for a long time. But once you move to the city, you keep changing your home. You live on rent, and then you don't feel attached to the place, and you still remember of your original hometown, that is the village. So this is what Ralph calls that as placelessness, and or inauthentic sense of place. Similarly, so this concept of place, you will understand it as we go through in this lecture, or otherwise I'll make a separate small video on this concept of sense of place and what is the difference between space, landscape, location, and place. So, Wai-Fu Tuan, in his book Tupofolia, he used existential phenomenology to differentiate between place and space. So, place, according to him, was a situation of pause and becoming involved, linked to that village example I'm giving you. And space is a situation of mobility based upon economic rationality. So, you can link this to the idea of city life. Then, unlike Ralph, who treats place as being real, Tuan considered place as imaginary and says that it resides in the minds of people. Thus, he is more human centric than Ralph. He believes that a person carries the concept of place, ideal place with him. This concept can also change with time, according to him. For example, people staying in village dream of living in an urban place. So, as an their ideal place, they feel that it has more facilities, more better education and health infrastructure, and they want to live there. But after getting settled there, they may see countryside as their dream place in which they would like to settle after retirement. So again, they once they start living there, they re- realize that there are several problems associated with urban life, and they would like to settle in the rural setting later in their life. So you can see that the concept of an ideal place is changing. For example, in the younger age, when they were in villages, they wanted to shift to urban areas, so that was an ideal place for them. And at a later stage in life, the rural setting became an ideal place for them. And Buttimer used existential phenomenology to argue that geographers are in an ideal position to understand Lebenswelt, or the living world, which is bound between home and the horizon outside home, that is work. So she says that geographers must focus on insider's view of place rather than an outsider's view seen in QR. For example, in the concept of locational analysis, we are just trying to find patterns, spatial flow patterns. Instead, Anne Buttimer says that geographers should focus on an insider's view of place. So this was the idea of existential phenomenology, and they must try to focus on insider view of place to get an understanding of the living world, or Lebenswelt. Then David Lay said that the meaning of place is different for different people based upon their values and experiences. He also said that dehumanization is taking place in a post-industrial metropolis where people of different cultures live together. Fine. So several themes were developed by humanistic geographers. So first one is the concept of place. I have already talked about this. It included the ideas of Ralph Tuam, Buttimer, and Lay. Then another theme was the study of personal geographies, and it meant that we must focus on understanding phenomena as perceived by people. That is, we must do phenomenology. So this is also quite simple to understand. Then crowding and privacy. So crowding leads to physical and psychological stress, as said by humanistic geographers. Example, there are several stresses that exist in slums, and humanistic geography is concerned with understanding how cultural and social institutions help people cope with such a stress. Similarly, privacy affects thinking and decision making of a person. And in solitude, a person creates his own world which he carries with him. So, these concepts were developed by humanistic geographers. Also, you can see that in these concepts, they are indirectly trying to promote privacy to crowding. They are saying that privacy is better for decision making and thinking rather than crowding. So, this idea later was criticized by other geographers who said that they are basically following a Eurocentric approach. So, this idea is European. They have less population density and so they may value privacy. But in country like India with high population density, you can't have privacy everywhere. For example, in Europe, as soon as a kid is born, they give him a separate room. Is that possible in joint families in India? So, and it is not that crowding has only disadvantages. Crowding may be positive also. There are more family bonding and family values present in India than the West. So that is how it is. Then another theme developed was language, religion, and secularization. So, according to humanistic geographers, these help in mediating between people and their environment by determining their attitude towards environment. Tuan said that religion has been used by humans to give structure to the phenomena they can't understand. According to him, we must delve deeper into the cause of religion. And humanistic geographers are also interested in iconography, that is, the study of religious places. So, this was another theme as a part of the religious studies done by humanistic geographers. And they assert that secularization increases with increase in scientific development. And this is another theme of secularization. But and this particular phenomena that secularization is increasing with increasing in scientific development, it is found to be true today. You can see that societies which are more scientifically developed are more secular because science helps in providing the reasoning for various phenomena in those societies and they don't need as such religion to explain those phenomena. For example, lightning, you can say. Then livelihood, culture, and economics was another theme in which humanistic geographers say that economic systems are tied with culture. For example, socially upper caste in India is also economically prosperous, correct? Then high population density in the eastern world has given rise to sustainable consumption. So another example of how high population density is affecting culture, livelihood. Fine. Then globalization is leading to increase in consumerism and commodification. So globalization, which is an economic phenomena, is leading to changes in the cultural phenomena. So they study the extent up to which people use economic rationale in their life. So you know that people are not fully economically rational. So this was studied by the humanistic geographers. So now let us come to the criticism of humanistic approach in geography. So positivists criticized humanistic geographers for introducing too much subjectivity into geography, which has halted the growth of human geography as a scientific discipline. Behavioralists also argue that generalizations regarding human behavior exist and these generalizations help in the development of science of geography, and behavioralists are called neo-positivists by humanistic geographers since they wanted to develop models. Then according to Douglas Pocock and Graham Rawls, methods used by humanistic geographers like field survey, heuristics, interview have limited application as people do not share actual information with outsiders, and this makes the validation of inferences that we get very difficult. So this is self-explanatory. Then environmentalists argued that giving humans a superior status to environment and other life forms has led to environmental degradation, and we just feel that we can exploit everything and human creativity and humans are superior to everyone else, so we can exploit them as we want. So this is leading to environmental degradation. Structuralists criticized humanistic geographers for neglecting the role played by underlying structures. So, according to them, underlying structures include economy and culture, polity, psychology, and so on. So, all these are interrelated to each other and play a role in shaping the human behavior. And humanistic geographers are only emphasizing only on culture. And later postmodern approaches since late 1980s like welfare approach feminism criticized humanistic geography to be leaning towards historical studies and being Eurocentric. So, why historical studies? Because humanistic geographers are giving more emphasis on time rather than on space in geographical studies. For example, they say that man's action are a result of his experiences. So, you're going into the history of of an individual. So, and you know that geography is said to be a spatial science. So, they are saying that you are making it like look like history and not focusing on the phenomena in space, which should be the aim of geography. And they also criticize for it being Eurocentric, for example, promoting privacy to crowding. I've already explained this to you. Then, proponents of these approaches, that is, proponents of welfare approach and feminism, argue that every culture is different and basic needs like food and shelter must be fulfilled first rather than studying about the subjectivity of human phenomena. So, rather than going too much deeper into philosophy, human geography should be more focused as to how they can provide basic needs to people, how they can map these basic needs of people, and how every culture is different. So, how they can benefit the society rather than just talking about philosophy. Also, feminists criticize humanistic geographers for neglecting the role of women while studying the uniqueness in cultures. Then there are several good points about human approaches in geography. For example, humanism brought focus to the study of places, religion, language, secularization, crowding, privacy, which remain as important areas of study in geography even today. And methodologies like literary criticism, heuristics, field surveys, interviews still remain a part of human geography. And structuralism, you can say that it became dominant approach after late 1980s, and this had a big impact on humanists. And humanistic geography changed to critical humanistic geography, or also known as the new cultural geography. So this new cultural geography studied the variability in cultures and how they are controlled by underlying structures. And this gave rise to the cultural turn and postmodern approach in geography from late 1980s. So you can see that humanistic geography remained important in the form of new cultural geography even after 1980s. And approaches like welfare geography, environmentalism, which rose to prominence after late 1980s as a part of postmodern approaches, they are also tied to the idea of philanthropic humanism. So even though this philosophy was not directly used by humanistic geography, you can say that this philosophy was a part of the broader philosophy of humanism. And since humanism was promoted through topical and methodological humanism, this philosophy also became important in the form of welfare geography and environmentalism. Fine. So, guys, this is it for today. I hope you find this humanistic approach in geography, which is given very vague in books, you find it to be very simple and lucid, because it is actually very simple and you can understand it. I have tried to make it very simple and to the point. You can use it in your answers. So, like, share, subscribe, and comment to spread the word about this initiative. Thank you.